Predictive. So welcome everyone. Happy to have you all here. We've talked a lot about CX on the rocks. We've talked a lot about this program and what we're doing as being on the rocks negative. A little bit reminder for everyone. Part of this is things are challenging right now. Things are changing more than anything else, and how are we going to figure this out together? How are we going to navigate these changes in customer experience together, because we can't do it alone. There's too much going on and too much change. But today is going to be a little more about the benefits of this change and where we're going and the potential future. And so we're gonna engage, especially when we get into breakouts. We're gonna engage in really talking about what is exciting. That's why I kind of called this, CX is dead, long live CX, because like with the the king in the UK, they always make that statement. Well, that's kind of what we're saying. Things are kind of bad, but hey, actually, long live CX, because while it's a little bit, there's a lot of questions right now with AI and everything else. The future is pretty bright in many ways as well, and I think it's an exciting opportunity to really engage and talk through, what are we seeing and what are we excited about and so forth. So I'm going to start with just a few little slides here to get us going. So again, like, as I mentioned earlier, we've talked a lot about customer experience on the rocks, and if you look at a lot of the statistics out there, we've got a lot. We got job cuts. We still have folks within our community that are looking for their next role. We got CX metrics that are hitting low levels. We've got employee experience and challenges in that space as well. So we're seeing some of that, but again, this evolution is real, and it's huge in what we're doing. And so, briefly, I want us to kind of talk about and share a little bit with each other what we're seeing in across three different spaces. Because I always look at this, we're evolving across people, process, and platforms. A lot of people say people, process, and technology, but I needed a third P. So people, process, and platforms. These are a lot of the changes that are going on. So, briefly, if we think about it, if we think about people, there's been a lot of history there, and it was divide and conquer, maybe departmental silos, a lot of individual task focus. And honestly, there was a lot more focus on needing more people. If we're going to grow, we're going to need more people. But as we think a little bit more about this, the future is, although we've been talking about things like customer centricity for a while, I'm actually seeing it more at the front end of conversations than I have. It's been coined for a while, but more companies are really like, okay, I really need to take this seriously, and are talking about those kind of things. But it's also about integrating purpose and sharing strategies, and having maybe a little bit more of a journey focus or a cross business focus as well. So I want to kind of ask the audience here, what are you seeing from a benefits positive perspective around the changes that are going on across people that you'd like to kind of highlight as this is an exciting part for you? Well, while you're working on that, Angie talks about, seeing more dialogue on community. And our community being new, and I've seen a couple other communities that have recently been launched. So a lot of that as well.
I mean, I've definitely seen, building on this community point, companies that have customer experience as part of the company focuses on it, trying to open it up to a broader dialogue. And that could mean they're having an offsite to bring people together. It could mean they create a share group where people get together monthly, and then bring speakers in to meet with a broader group of people. So just like, we have people come together once a month. I've seen people do that within a company where they create a regular share group. And where I was a speaker recently at one of them, where they brought me in to speak to, 50 people that were in a share group within a company, but they meet every month.
Awesome. Yeah. Anybody else seeing something like that?
Yeah,
Well,
Sean.
one thing that I saw at my last gig that I thought was really good was a much better kind of holistic approach to working with people remotely, and I think that's probably going to continue as we come out of like as lockdown gets further and further into the rear view, of companies figuring out how to recreate what we had in offices in terms of the casual sort of grease the wheels way of talking to each other, but doing it from home, from remote, from multiple offices at the same time. And that particular gig had a very robust kind of set of standards for Slack and for how we talk to each other and when, and had a lot of, I would say, more recreational outlets through those shared channels, not just work related. And that really helped. And we really felt like a team. So I suspect we're gonna grow that as we get further down the line.
Yeah, well, and that's a great call out. And I had a slide like one of these slides in the past, and it said, the past was in office and the future is hybrid, at least at a minimum,
At
if
least,
not
yeah,
remote. Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I mean, I remember at Charles Schwab before the pandemic, because we were so spread out, we would jump on calls every week, and then every once in a while we'd look at the people on the list and we're like, huh, we're all here in Denver. Why are we meeting on Zoom? But it was kind of habit. So it is the new age. Absolutely. And I know Chadwick said, definitely talking about it in a way that everybody's thinking customer experience is everyone's responsibility. And then also seeing contact center agents getting, frustrated with customer facing AI bots. And I think there's an opposite side here that in many cases, especially when we think about people, AI is coming and we know it's going to make an impact, but there is a bubbling up and a growing strategy that says, even with AI, let's reinvest in our people more. And in fact, part of my vision of the future is in this multiverse of madness, there's a future where actually the contact center is no longer entry level work, but it is mid-level employee work, because they're the face and the voice and the empathy of the organization that that we're going to reinvest in that and reinvest in the people. And actually they won't be entry level to most corporations anymore, because that skill set of having great EQ, emotional focus and so forth is going to be so important. So absolutely. Good deal. Let's, Dave, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah. So, we've all seen the headlines like you shared on the previous page, and there's definitely like we're at a pivot point in the industry in the CX profession, and there's no doubt about that. But there is also, it's not all negative. There are teams out there driving significant business improvement, and a couple come to mind. One is Gloria Gupta and the friction fighters at the American Medical Association. They're very they're very public about what they're doing and their award presentations and the awards they're winning and everything. And that's an example of a team that's doing the work and driving significant business improvements. Another one, I have a client who's very private. I'm not allowed to share their name. They don't want to apply for any awards because they don't want their competitors to know what they're doing, right? But we did this work. We mapped the journey, we made improvements, and their cycle time for this particular journey went from 22 days to 4 days.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of good work happening out there that nobody knows about and is not making headlines because these teams are just continually chipping away.
Yep, absolutely. Kate, looks like, what do you got to add?
Okay, I just find like the world just comes around in cycles. I love, Dave, that you just mentioned Gloria Gupta, because I literally was on the phone with her this morning and we were talking about Paul Zach's book, The Trust Factor. So he's a scientist and he founded an entirely new section of study called neuroeconomics. And he talks about the brain chemistry of building good culture at a company. And I think that is what really excites me if we're talking about people, because we can understand the brain chemistry, the science is there, and the AI is also there as well to help us understand from a customer and an employee standpoint what the sentiment is by either parsing the emails or listening to the tone of voice and things like that. And it's only poised to get better. So when we marry those two things, when we take the kind of neuroeconomics and scientific studies that people like Paul Zak are doing, and we help use AI to drive that culture at forward-thinking companies, the happiness that people are going to experience in the future on the job is something that really excites me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Maddie, I want to reply to your note here. Bad news is you're always going to be more headlines. The bad news is, and absolutely right. In fact, I just was listening to a TEDx talk yesterday, and he went through and he was going through, obviously the press is all about the disjointed US and all the problems we're having and global issues and everything else. But he literally went through statistics that over the last 12 months of amazing things that have happened that are so much better than they've ever been that nobody knows about because everybody's so focused on the negative. So there's a lot of great stuff happening. So thanks for, those additions. Kind of keep us moving. The second area that I talk about is process, and again, kind of, the past and it's still current for a lot of companies, but it, very heavily focused on surveys and, whether there's always the debate about is net promoter score dead or whatever, but siloed data, reactive improvements, being the processes that we have. And just a few of the things I was looking at is, observational analytics, behavioral and observational analytics, the ability to actually see what people are doing, see their emotion, and use that to understand the experience instead of having to ask them about it in a survey. Being able to predict measurements and predict outcomes. Obviously, integrating data and then being proactive and empowered at within the business. And I want to Stephen, your item here about change management, I would say, is a big part of this. Change management has always been a major important process, but it's more important now because we're all overwhelmed with change. I did a keynote a couple of months ago, and we polled the audience, and 97% of them said that their organizations are going through major transformations. And I was shocked, 97%, but I was shocked that it was not 100%. Because it is so massive what's going on out there as well. So and even in the process, I think it kind of goes back to people. Valerie, your note about people will have access to knowledge. The process of accessing knowledge will be so much easier. It'll just be fingertips for all of us. So maybe jump on in. Let's talk a little bit from the process standpoint. What are you excited about seeing when we think about the processes that are changing and how we do CX, knowing there's a third group about platforms, which is truly the technology we're using. But what are your thoughts about the processes that's exciting for everyone? Who wants to jump in there? You can raise your hand, jump in, or add to the chat.
I think so much about a great experience is about removing friction for the customer. And I think, in the old days, I like this slide, Sean, because, siloed data just is not going to get it done today. You have to break down those silos in order to remove friction. And anyone here who's ever worked for a large organization knows that the more siloed you are, likely the more friction you're causing for the customer somewhere, whether it be at the beginning of the experience, as the experience is in its process, or at the end of the experience when you're trying to pay or whatever. So I think that today's focus on efficiency and removing friction is really an exciting piece for any of us who look at the way technology integrates with human service to provide better guest experiences.
Oh, absolutely, Neil. That is absolutely right. Angie, what would you add?
Yes, so the efficiency that comes with the use of AI and the ability of us to be able to tap into unstructured data to identify sentiment, exactly as Kate was saying, I think that's big. And that ties back to your point from your book about time, sentiment plus friction. 10 times more loyalty, 13 times, something like that, right? Mm. So now it's even easier for us to get ahead by identifying the sentiment pieces I know previously it was a lot of work as somebody detailed as myself. I used to actually comb through the responses to pick out using my intuition. Is this something is predicting something and trying to generate patterns? And now it's something that is done even more efficiently with the system. And on top of that, exactly as the gentleman was saying before, now how all the different teams can leverage data. So it's not just our team, but now there's like a cross-pollinating sharing. It's easier to cross-pollinate, it's easier to share. And then that's actually building stronger relationships with the teams because they're like, oh, this person has my back. They made me aware of something they were able to identify that's going to help me operate more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is amazing. I mean, I'm talking even to some folks that are figuring out how to tap into companies' security, videos and leverage the video observationally and behaviorally, because we're all being recorded all the time anyway. We know it. So, but using that to understand, hey, is this customer in a retail setting or a branch setting, and which was often not understood. Now we can actually observe, and understand, people's emotions through that, at least get a prediction of that, and using it for things like, watching when people are in line, and if their behavior is indicative, they might be open to offers and things like. It's really, really exciting in that context as well. Brad, what would you add?
I would say that I feel almost every company out there right now is obsessed about where are the blind spots and where do we have broken feedback loops. And I think one of the big intimidating things of days of old was too much data coming from too many disparate sources. You can't make sense of it. There's no rhyme or rhythm of it. But now I think for the first time in history, you can take an entire customer life cycle, you can instrument it all the way backwards and forwards. You can take all of that data and you can make sense of it and build predictive measures and better service blueprints. I think the doability of that today is so much higher than ever before. And you could do it with your ChatGPT, AI agent helper. You don't have to buy a massive SAP implementation. So I think that's really exciting on the process side.
Yeah, it is exciting, and I think what's crazy is it's going to get better than we can even imagine at this point as well. So, Chafik,
right.
what would you? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
the old saying is, a generative chat will never be worse than it is today.
yeah,
It's only going to get better.
Yeah, great points there. And mine is mainly focused on the agent experience, which impacts directly the customer experience there, and the process change that we've been seeing over the past couple of years, and since we've been implementing newer technologies and continuous push for automation and leveraging whatever new AI technologies are allowing us to automate more stuff, is that the reps now know that everything is captured and that it's not just based on keywords, but that the machine understands what's being talked about and helps them do more things faster and better, which is better for the customers that we support. So with that in mind, and with improvement in automated entries into the CRM and automated recommendations for the reps of what to do next, or what to recommend to the customer, or what to do to make sure that they are following process, the reps are now aware that this is happening, and they are leveraging it to make sure that they do their jobs better and faster, which is allowing them to handle more customers faster and better. And they are providing that feedback. They are sharing it in order to allow us to continuously improve their workflow. So I think this continuation, natural evolution, is going to allow us to get to a point where our reps are only having phone conversations or chats, and everything else is done by the machine with them, meaning that they're going to be moving from call to call, from chat to chat, and all of that stuff that needs to happen in between calls or during the after call work, and all of that eventually will all be fully automated. And that is the best value that I think is happening here for customer experience, because customers are still getting the human help that they want, and the humans are able to do it faster and better for them, for whatever the front end chatbot or the front end voice bot was not able to capture and fully automate for the customer.
How does that change the way you do QA, quality assurance and training?
That's done automatically too. So QA is AI doing it, same as what the QA analyst was doing before. The coaching and the training, you can have the machine tell the rep, you did good on this, you could have improved on that, but it doesn't land in their head the same way as if it's a manager or a coach or trainer that delivers that. So the training and coaching per se still needs that human aspect in order to make sure it lands. But the creation of the content for that coaching and for that training, AI is solid enough to generate it, so both the rep and the coach and the supervisor and the QA analyst can review. The delivery still needs that human aspect.
What you're highlighting is the big part of the CX and culture connection, which is this continuous feedback loop for behavior adoption. And it's not only in the call centers now, because so many more frontline employee experiences are observable and can have data to them now they're on Zoom.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of feeds into the platforms that we're going to go to next. But you're exactly right. This opportunity to these processes just don't just benefit the customer; they benefit the employees as well, making their experience richer. Whether it's QA and automated, feedback, absolutely. Let's keep going a little bit here. So going into the third is exactly that platform. The past was, we had a lot of different tech purpose built. It was just about scale and standardization. And now with this integration with artificial intelligence, being able to develop personalized experiences. I've used the term that I stole from somebody else, situationalization, where we're able to look at personal information and understand who they are, and then situation, what's going on, and then putting it all together and customizing the experience for them, up to and including, and going into a little bit of what you were just saying earlier, is up to and including the ability to change what's happening as it's happening, because we can predict they're going down an unhappy path. We flag that from everybody else who's done that previously, and we change it mid-cycle. Just hit my microphone. We change that mid-cycle, within the platform, because the technology is now working so well together in that context. Who wants to add some thoughts when they think about platforms here?
I think what everyone on the call, if you're not already, maybe you've already dug into this and you're moving 100 miles an hour, but that two words together, or technically two words, agentic AI. So the invention of a refinement and improvement of agents that actually you go tell it to do something and it's able to interact with all your different systems and do the things that you need it to do. It is the present. I was just at International Automation Week in Dallas a couple of weeks ago. That's what everybody's talking about. But it's, the stuff's not as mature as it needs to be. But by the end of next year, that is what customer service will be driven by. So you'll have a human and an agent, and the agent will be able to do an enormous number of things very, very quickly. And of course, it's not a physical, you don't see the person, right? It's a software tool. So I would suggest to everybody, the more you dig into understanding the basics of what AI agents are, that's like not understanding what the internet is when the internet came out. That's how powerful it will be. And what it's primarily going to replace in our world is robotic process automation. Some of those automation tools that were good, but they weren't all that flexible, and they couldn't think on their own. So that would be my suggestion to think about the platform as agentic AI in the CX space.
I think a lot of it now, with being 2 years into it with AI, and just like Chris mentioned, some companies are moving at 100 miles an hour, and other companies are moving a little slower. But everybody's moving, which is the great thing, or at least most everybody. The main challenges that existed before AI and that remain today is the integrations. So you still have a million tools and companies out there that offer these AI solutions, but then for companies to leverage them and to make sure they're adding value to both their customers and their reps, you got to make sure that these tools connect, right, integrate well, and then at the end, simplify the whole process for the customers and the reps. And what's happening is some companies are moving the route of adding to their tech stack and having all of these tools that then need integration and then require people to jump from tool to tool. And some companies are moving towards the consolidation. The other thing too is there is overlap now in all of these AI features between all of the tools that these companies are using. And they have to give the right guidance, goes back to process for their reps, for their managers, and so on, to tell them what to use where and when, because they could end up with the same feature on this tool and this tool and this tool, and each tool has access to just a bit of information, but not the whole thing. So the big thing that I'm seeing here is, and the right way to go is more towards consolidation and integration into those core tools that are not going away, the ones that have been there before and will be there tomorrow, like your CRM and your telephony. And then all of these additional things that plug into them have to basically fit inside and not on top of them.
Angie, what would you add?
So everything that Shafiq said, 100% resonated. I think from my organization standpoint, we have been on a search of how do we streamline and find a single source solution to do everything we want. Because yes, it's a lot easier to have like one vendor, one partnership, one relationship. And we have not been able to achieve that yet. So we have multiple partners. And then we're part of a larger organization. So there's the whole enterprise solution approach. But to echo what Shafiq is saying, integrations have always been a non-negotiable. In addition to the consolidation part, the issue that I have personally, I am driven by relationships and also ease. So it's like, okay, there's so much potential out there. There's so many vendors that are exactly moving 1,000,000 miles a minute. And you're trying to find the right one that does as many things as you can, but also has that plan or roadmap, has that mindset, like you're more marrying yourself to the leadership and how they think. Are there someone who's always listening to help evolve where there's a partnership? Are there somebody who has like, great talent and teams? Because from my standpoint and from the employees I serve, the last thing I want is like every year we're on a new system.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I'm already seeing it happen because we get approached and it's like, oh my God, the bells and the whistles and the shiny ball and all of this stuff. So yeah, so I think it's a sweet spot. It's a journey. And I mean, so far, so good. I think I've identified really like the people-driven partnerships that they have that mindset. They're open. They want to hear from us to incorporate into their product roadmap. But they're still like trying to stay ahead of the curve because we want to be competitive too. So if they're competitive, we're competitive. But anyway.
What I think what's funny is it in many ways, and you're exactly right. Right now, there's so much focus on I got to pick a vendor who's doing a lot of different things. But I think what's really exciting is that won't matter in the future. Using AI to connect other AIs will actually be very agnostic to who we work with, because now you'll be able to truly do best in class, and it will be very easy to integrate because AI will have broken down the integration challenge. That is where we're going in many cases. So JP, what would you add?
I think the point that's been highlighted is this whole, as you stack on more tools, you get more levels of complexity. It kind of amplifies the silo message that you mentioned earlier because there's no unified approach to it. Is a sense of it's an AI arms race, kind of an AI FOMO that's happening in the organization, which from a sequencing perspective, we've leaped forward to the technology. But to your point earlier, Sean, we've still not solved the process piece in terms of the use case and the problems we're trying to solve, and how does that work at scale across the organization to unify that experience. Because when you think about the example that's been provided, you're a frontline person or anyone who's trying to use these tools, and now you've got a myriad of tools. Your CX experience is compromised, and which means that you're very challenged to give the type of experience that these tools are intended to deliver. Hence, you get the blowback that says, well, the tool didn't work. Well, because we didn't solve the fundamental problem, of trying to create a great experience. And so we got to kind of to your point, we got to flip it. Let's start with the people and the process. But we're seeing it play out this way because, like I said, the FOMO is very real.
Mm-hmm. It is, and you're highlighting the importance, right? And you know, people process platform in this order is for that very specific reason of driving through the learning methods. Because I think going to Stephen talked about, we're changing things so fast that front lines and just people in general are one, some of them are scared and about what's coming, and others are just overwhelmed. So it's a big challenge, but so much opportunity. Dave, what would you add?
Well, one thing I would just say
Oh, yep.
before we jump in is that understanding those are C-level board investor driven conversations around wringing out costs. So, you know, it's very, very important to understand where that pressure is coming from to get in the AI of something in place. Similar to, I think it was someone mentioned earlier about knowing the internet. It's like 25 years ago. If you didn't have a .com, you weren't going to be in the game. So that's
Right.
the context.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to what Chris was talking about agents with a real example. So I'm a small business owner, and I have been trying to automate this process for years. And the process is getting a receipt out of my email and attaching it to the charge in my bookkeeping system. That should be easy, right? But here's the thing. They charge my credit card, but there's a lag time, 3 to 5 days before the charge is posted on my credit card, and then another lag time before that credit card charge is imported into my bookkeeping system. To further complicate it, you've got bank holidays, and end of the month is sometimes on a weekday and sometimes on a weekend. And so it could very well be that I have 2 invoices that come into my email in August, but one is for July and one is for August. And it takes a human brain to figure out which one to attach. Well, no more when you combine automation with AI agents, is the AI is now a brain that can make that decision and attach that receipt, pull it out of Outlook, and put it into FreshBooks on the correct entry. And that's an agent I'm building right now in an automation tool. And so those kinds of problems where it's like it's stupidly complex for something that should be easy is what the future holds in these agents.
Now, I just submitted a poll that you guys should see. And I think if you don't see the poll, people are starting to come in here. Where are you most excited? People, process, or platforms? Because trick question, your answer will determine which room you get put in. So if we end up with way too many in one, we might combine some. But cool. We are 100% answered. So I'm going to end the poll, share results. So we've got pretty balanced. 7 out of 15 saying people, which I was actually thinking that I was going to be a little less excited about people, but that's awesome. 7 out of 15, 4 out of 15 for both process and platforms. And so we're going to actually jump into those. I'm going to create breakout rooms. Here's what I want you to do in your breakout room. I want you to think crazy. I want you to think pie in the sky within your area. Come up with a story or an example of something that you think is the best possible future in that area. So get crazy, get futuristic here of what it is. And we're going to spend about 10 to 15 minutes, about 15, maybe 20 minutes in the room. But yeah, get together, think a little bit about that, and go nuts. Get crazy about where you think we're going in this area. So we're going to create the breakout rooms, put you guys in it, and then we'll call everybody back, which we kind of wrap that up a little bit. So I look forward to hearing what you guys think. This is going to be exciting. All right, here we go. Well, welcome back. Hopefully, I'm kind of excited to hear what some of the dialogue was about. We ended up combining the process and platform rooms. We had some people kind of had to leave at the half hour. So, but hopefully, you guys got a chance. So, who's got something that from their discussion that they'd like to share with everybody else?
I feel like it's self-serving, but we spent a lot of time talking about agents, how powerful agents are going to be, both in the process and with the, of course, it depends on the platform, but kind of the sky's the limit on what that stuff can do.
So what does sky's the limit look like?
An agent that is indistinguishable from a human being, but has the power of access to every system under the sun and all the analytics that the person can have in addition to sentiment analysis, and can turn into a quasi-therapist when the person is pissed off. All of that in one agent.
Yeah, we had something similar, Chris, and like we took the agentic bot idea and extended it beyond the call center in the people group to say, what if your entire customer journey and your entire employee journey were supported by a personalized bot for you that removed all the friction, predicted what you want, connected and filtered stuff around you.
Right.
And then actually what you're left with is higher emotional peaks with all the crap removed.
But a subtlety is, what if those bots work for me, Brad Smith, the consumer, and I've got a vendor relationship management system around me negotiating every journey I go on against any brand I want to go on, and I decide who sees what, and I decide what they get and what they don't get.
So
that is exactly what the AI, the thought leaders are actually, I don't consider myself one of those thought leader people are talking about. I complimented an agent a couple of days ago who gave me great customer service. I think I may have been flirting with a 19-year-old Indian kid with acne, but I thought her name was Gemma and she was really charming. So who knows?
Well, and I do think, going Brad to what you're saying, I think that's part of the reality is when we're all going to have our own AI bots that do the work for us, and we'll say, hey, can you contact so and so and get make this change on my account, and they'll be doing our AI will talk to their AI, and then it'll be it'll be accomplished.
I want to book a bed and breakfast for a romantic weekend in Savannah, Georgia, and there's 200 I could choose from. Here's my very specific criteria. Go off and find and negotiate with all 200 bed and breakfasts which one's the best for me. So what that means is if you're a business, you don't only have to worry about what customer experience means human to human or human to your digital interface, but now you have to win over a bot that's negotiating on behalf of another customer. Now amplify that into B2B or B2B2C and across partner channels, and it's just now about to get fun again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's about to become like a different kind of SEO.
Absolutely. 100,000%.
Right.
So you've got to win over a bot first before you can even start.
It's a bot optimization strategy, not a search engine optimization strategy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
SEO shifts into it's more like GPT, search, and not what you're doing. Because I mean, even Google has seen that drop in their traffic, and it's because we're getting more accurate, quicker information that's more granular. So
first you take away my cookies, and then you take away my preferred responses to your search.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's happening. It's happening. But I think it goes back to, I think you guys articulated a great point I dropped in the chat. Like, you see a world where you have a concierge, who's going to walk you through the customer journey. And then, as a consumer, so you have that personal advocate. But you think about from an employee perspective, you now got a coach that's on demand, right? It's no different than an attorney who now has this 24/7 paralegal, once they build the GPT. So it's got a ton of uses to improve.
There's a really interesting question here around who do you trust and who do you want to be the one who curates this and provides this for you? Like, do you trust Verizon to do it for you, Google to do it for you? Do you want an individual brand like Lululemon or Nike to do it for you in different categories? Like, who provides this solution to customers?
Most likely it's going to be Amazon, Matt. You could probably count on that.
Amazon, yeah, that's another one, yeah.
It's so funny to this day. I would be saying something and my phone is nearby, and then I go on and it pops up somewhere. It's so creepy, but Yeah.
You mean not your phone, you mean the microphone?
The microphone, yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
talking to
yeah.
somebody else about
Yeah.
something, and then everything pops up on my phone. It's like,
Well, Amazon
okay.
certainly has the most data because they've got your purchases, they've got the ad, big chunk of the ads you watch, and then they've got, a lot of other data about you.
Yeah. And then they
And
have
then,
the Amazon store technology, right? So
but they've
Alexa's
also
always
got web
listening.
services where all the companies that all the other companies you use have all their data, and
Yep.
who knows what they're doing with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just dropped into the chat an article by Doc Searles. He's a legendary visionary in this topic around this whole VRM idea. So
Yeah.
click through it. It's worth a read.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave, take us home.
Yeah, just ending with a real example. Like I don't use Google anymore. I use ChatGPT, and I was having some back pain, so I told ChatGPT. It said it's probably your office chair. So I had it go research and recommend the best office chairs, and I just bought a $550 office chair based on my conversation with ChatGPT. I didn't read any blogs, I didn't read any articles, I didn't read any Amazon reviews. AI did all that for me.
And now you're gonna get all these chiropractors pinging you and all that fun stuff.
I saw a story where somebody actually diagnosed themselves correctly by putting in their symptoms into ChatGPT. Like,
Yeah.
Well, and
Absolutely.
again, who should own that data?
Yep. Well, and I think what's interesting is the future is no one may own data. Data may actually just be out there, and I mean it already is, from that perspective. But it's a very, very interesting world we're engaging in, and again, I'm an optimist, almost to my fault. But I think the future is definitely great. So this was an awesome conversation. Thank you all for joining. Hope to see you at one of our upcoming events, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care.
Hi, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.